right, let's make this next segment about all jazz teaching.
Okay.
Beginning jazz teaching up through advanced.
Yes.
The rhythmic approach that you took.
Yes.
Today. The Ted Reed Syncopation book.
My man.
Right? Okay. So this is an activity that's better done for everybody in person, but since they're not in person.
So you want me to explain the activity?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as part of our curriculum, we use this Ted Reed Syncopation for the Modern Drummer. It's a rhythm packet meant for a jazz drum set player. And all of our students throughout the course of the curriculum in the year in our younger ensembles and even in our older groups too, we have them move on the swing time train, which I can show you if you want to see it.
Sure.
Am I dancing? Okay. I'm going to be kind of like back here. All right. Okay. I can kind of hear myself still.
Yeah.
Cutting in and out.
That's all right.
All right. So we're moving left to right. We're feeling every jazz eighth note as part of the rhythmic time train. We're having students count and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We're having them sing triplets, the jazz triplet. Doodle-la, 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 doodle-la.
And they're moving.
They're all moving.
Yep.
They're dancing. It's authentic dancing. This is part of who we are as human beings. We intrinsically want to dance.
So let's stop you there. Okay. So is it just a culture here? The kids know that's what it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a problem.
No. Yeah, it's part of all of our groups. And are you still picking up my mic?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So yeah, it's part of our culture. We reinforce it in the jazz camp every summer that we do an improv camp for a week. All of our lab groups do that movement. We even do it with the concert band, and we do improvisation with the concert band and the rhythm packets. So they sing these rhythms that are meant for a jazz drum set player. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the packet, all of these rhythms that are presented in a sequential pattern, da-da, da, da, da-da, da.
Repeats 4 times.
Repeats 4 times, and it starts to do new measures. Da 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 do la da 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 da. And while they're moving to these rhythms and singing these rhythms and varying the pitch of their voice, they're learning the rhythmic jazz vocabulary. Because when kids read charts, they sight read, they're not making mistakes on the notes as much as the rhythm. It's the rhythmic vocabulary. Mm-hmm. And the most important concept too is that if they're coming from a concert band setting, they're being told that quarter notes or that quarter notes are short and eighth notes are short, or da 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 da. Okay, well now we're in a swing mindset where quarter notes are going to be longer and eighth notes are going to be longer, or vice versa. Da do ba da 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 da. Everything is different, and for students to see that but not understand the language, it's very difficult. So just as we teach, donde está la biblioteca? They have to learn how to pronounce those words to be able to speak that language. Same exact thing with jazz rhythm. And if the students work through these packets, which they do in our courses, for an entire year, and they gain that rhythmic vocabulary knowledge, they can sight read anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what allows us to play more music. It all works together, So we supplement the rhythm packets with our melodic work in our younger groups, and we put it all together through the lens of improvisation. And that's how we've done it for 40 years and how I continue to do it. And the kids actually love it, man. They love moving. They love dancing. They love expressing themselves in that way. And it benefits their ability, their musicality.
So step 1 was you were stepping left to right.
Yeah.
And then step 2 was, were we snapping on 2 and 4 or clapping on 2
clapping.
and 4?
Yep. That's the backbeat in jazz.
Yep. And then after that, we added the rhythmic part, or we just did the triplet?
Well, both. So because the jazz eighth note comes from the jazz triplet.
Right.
So doodle-la, 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 do becomes 1 and 2.
I felt like you had us do that before we started reading anything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it puts it all in context. And if we're singing the jazz eighth note, if we're singing the jazz triplet, the quarter note will make sense because the length of the jazz quarter note is the first 2 parts of the jazz triplet. Doodle-la, 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 doodle. It becomes dot and dot and dot and dot and dot and dot. And it's 2 different languages. You could argue it's the same language as John Philip Sousa. We're still dealing with quarter notes and half notes, but it's interpreted a different way. Mm-hmm. So, and then we put it in context for the music that we study. But, so it's movement, feeling the jazz eighth note, feeling the jazz triplet, and then reading those rhythms. which by the end of that packet, if you can read all of those rhythms while moving on the time train, that's every rhythm you would ever see in any jazz tune.
Yep.
They just happen to be in that packet from that book.
When you talk about jazz being an oral language and having to be passed down that way, I still remember Clark Terry telling us, because I'd see him 3 or 4 times a year all the way through 6 years at UNH,
Yeah,
right?
man, yeah.
And he said, that's why I'm still out 300 nights a year at the age of 84 or whatever it was, because he wanted to, man, you probably didn't go to this, his 85th birthday concert at UNH.
I heard about it.
Oh, they ended with like Straight No Chaser at 3:40.
Yeah,
man, it's like
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night.
Dude, man, Clark Terry, what a wonderful legacy he left us, and to study his recordings, hearing recordings of the Basie band, and yeah, it's infectious music. And another reason why we should be studying it. You can feel that sense of joy and energy from a Sousa march or from a Beethoven symphony, or from a Bach cantata, but there's something about swinging. There's something about playing the music of Basie and Ellington and Thad Jones and Clark Terry, and there's something about feeling that rhythm and dancing that speaks to the bigger human condition. And improvisation, it's magical. And I've seen jazz transform students. I've seen it change kids' lives, giving them the opportunity to improvise into solo, and to play in a band where they're all swinging, they're all moving, they're all dancing. There's nothing like it. And our kids love it, and I love it. So
before we leave the Clark Terry thing, if anybody doesn't know this, I have a good friend, Chris Humphrey, up in Maine, who's a piano player, who just released an album in September 2022. I forget what it's called, but it's Clark Terry album.
Yeah.
And if you go on Apple Music and put in Chris Humphrey.
Chris is a student teacher at Foxboro.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, man. I bet.
People should check it out.
Yeah, he's killing too. Chris sounds great.
Remind me to give him a shout out.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Totally.
So let's talk about the melodic development material.
Yep. So with the melodic material, it's nothing revolutionary. We're taking chords and chord scales. We're arpeggiating chords. We're learning 3 main versions of every the basic chords that they'll see in terms of major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th. We're arpeggiating the chord. We're coming down the scale using a jazz articulation. Da 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 ya da ya da ya da ya. We're doing that inverted. We're flipping it around up the scale, down the chord.
And would you get them really well versed in just the major one before you went to the
Yeah, well, it depends on the class.
Yep.
It depends on the ensemble. But I typically give them the major 7th, dominant 7th, and minor 7th all at the same time.
And then will you do this if they don't know the new scale, like say they're on to G major or something? They have to be comfortable with that scale before they can, or you teach it through this?
I could teach it through. Well, I mean, the scale's embedded in it.
Yep.
So you could, you could wait until they're comfortable. I like to give them a lot of material.
Yeah.
I like the students to be slightly uncomfortable with how much they have to prepare, because that's how they're going to grow the most. So we do that. We do lower chromatic neighbors, doodle-la, 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 da-da-ya, da-ya. We do bebop scales, both versions, flat 6, major 6, flat 7th, major 7th.
Yep.
And then we move through all the 12 keys. So we now have major 7th, dominant 7th, minor 7th in all the keys, and then we improvise on them. That's the most important part. Not playing the chord and the scale, but then saying, okay, using just the chord tones, improvise on that. And through that, you can teach the rhythm section to play multiple styles, multiple genres, while the students are all improvising on B flat major 7. And then after you have those building blocks learned, you can then start to show the relationship between different dominant chords in the blues, the 1 to the 4 chord, which is the most important shift in all of music, going from 1 to 4. It's the blues. And then you can extend that into 2-5-1s, the 2 minor 7 chord to 5 dominant 7 to 1 major 7, because they've learned all those chords. Then you can further utilize your rhythm section to teach more styles. Let's play this in a shuffle. Let's play this in a bossa nova. Let's play this in a Brazilian samba. Let's play it in an Afro-Cuban mambo. Let's play it in a ballad form. Let's play it in a jazz waltz form. It's still the same material, but through a different perspective. And the students are all improvising collectively. And if all the students are improvising on all these chords, they're going to play the charts that you select fine. But a lot of directors sadly are forced to focus so much on these tunes because they have a concert coming up and they only see their group 45 minutes once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I argue that if you really spend time on the fundamentals and you take that risk, it will benefit the music parts that you're trying to play, and they will be able to play those tunes. And I know that's tough to believe, because I need to teach this by rote or it's not going to be right. It'll get there.
But you can under-program. Say it takes you a couple years to get it going, right?
Yeah,
You
totally.
can under-program for a while.
Totally.
And then at some point...
And every teacher knows their ensemble best. There's no one answer when it comes to programming or the balance of the fundamentals versus the rehearsal versus improvisation. But I always tell students, as Steve Massey told students for years before me, do you want to play jazz or do you want to play in a jazz band? Because they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
I only want to play third trumpet. Okay, man. Well, you should try improvising because it's going to make that third trumpet part sound better. And the benefits are just immeasurable.
Yep.
So yeah, we do a lot of them, melodic and rhythmic, and those two, coupled with the other rehearsal strategies, help facilitate the success in that.
A couple things I really liked about the conference today. It was my first time coming to this one.
Yeah, man, yeah.
Was that we started out watching professional musicians.
Yes.
It was a duet of...
We always have live
percussion
music.
That was very refreshing to just sit and listen to that.
Yeah.
And then to end in a choir rehearsal.
Yeah.
We were all making music and singing, except for you. You were turning pages.
I was singing up there, man. I'm turning pages for my man, the piano player. He's our choir director and jazz piano teacher, and he teaches the vocal jazz program. Brian Raymond. Check out Brian Raymond, man. Brian Raymond has played in the Capitol Jazz Orchestra up in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
One of the best jazz piano players anywhere, man, and has been, my partner here for so many years in Foxboro, and we went to school together, and does a fantastic job teaching the vocal jazz program here. So yeah, the live music is huge. We've always tried to make the professional development day here at Foxboro not be an opportunity to remember everything that frustrates us about the profession, because you can so easily focus on the negative. I don't have enough time for my groups. I don't have the budget I want. My administrator doesn't support me. My department chair doesn't support me. Whatever it is, the parents are getting on my case about this. I can't order a bus for the thing next. There's always something.
Yep.
But we structure this day off of trying to inspire folks with live music, with an opportunity to talk about why we're here, which is working with young people and making music at a high level. And it's refreshing, I think. I've been part of a lot of professional developments as a public school educator. None of them are music specific. Mm-hmm. So we are very fortunate here to have an administration led by Amy Burdos, our superintendent, who spoke at the end. Yep. Usually speaks at the beginning of the day, actually. We bring her in and she speaks every year, and she was at another district training with me this morning early. So she came over at the end of the day, but they support this 100%. And it grew from 10 teachers 12, 14 years ago to now having 150 educators. Yep. And people from Maine, people from New Hampshire, which is so beautiful that you came down to hang at this. And we hire wonderful clinicians to come in and work with the educators here. And sometimes we use Foxboro staff, depending on people's area of expertise. But we're very fortunate. Again, all part of the culture. Mm-hmm. This is actually part of our music program culture, to have this professional development.
Yep.
And the kids that played in my sessions today, the big band, that's part of their music education too. It's part of the curriculum, a performance for a bunch of music teachers, yep. Which is,
that's a thing.
They can hear, and I would tell them, man, so I want you to show these cats what's possible of high school students. And how can you do that? You play your parts really well, because they're going to hear it if you don't.
That's right.
Because there's people in that auditorium sitting right behind you. And chances are, if there's someone sitting behind you in the sax section, they're probably a sax player.
Yep.
And they're sitting there going, oh, let's see. Let's see. It's a let's see moment,
yep.
But they did a wonderful job.
You said something really nice in that clinic, that it was about, as long as you have time with the kids, the only limit to how much information you can give them is you as the teacher.
Yep.
Like, if you know all the things, then you can help them learn all the things.
Right. And it's impossible to know everything. But yes, the students will. I've found that 99.1,000,009% of the time, students will rise to the expectation if you create an environment where they feel safe to take risks and learn. And every student can learn, but no student learns the same way as someone else. So if you have multiple strategies, multiple different ways to engage different learning styles, and you create an environment where they feel safe, they'll learn anything.
Yep.
And if you can impart that knowledge on them, I think a lot about the concept of even with the band sitting around me or sitting in a square around me, that there's a statement to that we're all equidistant from one another. And the teacher, this is a Parker Palmer educational kind of concept, the teacher is in the middle of the circle imparting the knowledge and directing students to listen and react and make their own decisions based on the information presented. And so you won't have all the answers. I certainly don't. But the caveat to that is they're limited by you, and you need to be willing to find mentors. And I know I've seen a lot of the episodes of your podcast, and you've had such amazing people, Mastriani, Tommy, TL, man. They're all saying similar concepts of find mentors, especially for young teachers. I'm lucky where I've been blessed with in my opinion, the finest mentors. By the way, John and Tom are two that I consider mentors too. And the concept of bringing in someone who knows more than you is a powerful, powerful statement to your students. When you say, I'm limited in my knowledge, or even not saying it, but you bring someone in, they're sitting next to you, they're listening to the band, they're offering feedback, and I'm sitting there writing notes. The kids are sitting there going, man, this cat really cares about us because this person working with us is better than him, clearly. When I bring Steve Massey in to work with the band, it's like night and day. Steve listens, responds, and gives them 10 seconds of instruction that completely changes the band. And the kids look at each other going, oh my God, how did you know how to fix that? And I'm sitting there taking notes because when your kids see that, they recognize that this cat knows more than you, but you're comfortable with that and you're trying to learn. It's endearing.
You used the word vulnerable earlier.
Oh yeah, big time. It's all about vulnerability and intimacy. We teach our leaders in our leadership curriculum here the value of being intimate with those that they're leading in a way that intimacy meaning a deep love for the condition of leadership, a deep love for the process of music making, not necessarily one another in an intimate way, but the process. So with intimacy comes vulnerability. And when you create an environment, first of all, you can't improvise without being vulnerable. You can't. You can't share something if you don't feel comfortable in the environment that you're trying to share it in. So that vulnerability builds trust, and that trust allows risks to be taken, and that those risks that are being taken help us grow musically and personally. So big time vulnerability fan. Love it. I'll cry in front of the kids all the time. Emotional wreck.
Well, thanks for staying late with us.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for letting us hang out in your band room.
Absolutely. It's a good place. It's a fun place. It's got carpet. I've spilled coffees on this carpet 5,000 times.
Any final words? You've given lots of final word statements already.
I talk so much. I just pontificate and babble. Yeah. For young teachers,
find a mentor.
Find a mentor. Oh my gosh, find a mentor. Listen to jazz and truly find something about it that you love. There's so many things you can love about it, and that love will transfer you to your students. And, remember why we're here. We love making music and we love working with young people.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much,
See you, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, everybody. See you later. We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.